Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of FoolCraft. And don't you worry yourself, we ain't going to be spending much time in this room. We've spent a lot of the last two episodes in here trying to get this thing going at full pelt, and it just ain't working. The system has failed us again. As you can see, lots of the machines aren't working, and this is because of the quarries and the filters. If we go down here and click on some of these, you will see that once again the filters have disappeared. Not on all of them, but it just seems to be a bug that they will occasionally disappear. You know, I just had an idea. We might be able to automatically insert them using hoppers pointing into this. That might be an idea that I try, but I'm going to try something because we need to get this thing running around the clock. As you have a look here, we've only gained 10 copper singularities. It is not good enough to get these infinity tools, and I had an idea suggested from the comments to use RF Tools dimensions to create dimensions that have the resources in them. We could literally make a dimension full of copper blocks, because we got loads of them, and I'm typing incorrectly. Let's do that properly. We can make a dimension full of these blocks and then mine them with a quarry automatically, and we would just get singularities out of the wazoo. It would be so easy. But unfortunately, looking through the RF Tools mod, it appears that the dimensions aspect of this mod has been disabled, so we are not going to be able to do that, which means we're going to move on to doing something else. Now, currently, all of my storage disks and stuff like that are backed up because this thing right here is completely broken and we are pumping resources we don't need into our system. So I'm going to fix up this right here. We're going to walk away from it and never look at it again. So we're going to be working on a control room this episode, and this little gap right here I think is ideal. Due to where the other rooms are, it's going to be a little bit of a squeeze, but I think we can put in some sort of control terminal in front of us and then server rooms on each side, and we should have plenty of space for that. So that is the challenge, to move all of the stuff that is above us down below. If we just have a look up here, we've got our server drawers, ME drives, whatever you want to call them. We've got our little diagnostics terminal over here to see what's in each of the drives. We've got our MEIO ports, and there might be one or two other things over here as well that I want to move, but actually I think that's kind of it. It looks super janky though, right? And I was messing around with some doors to go in the doorway, and I remember Malasis doors from last season. It's still in the pack, and I don't know how to use it. Oh, so now you'll create a door. I've just been sitting here clicking on that for ages, and now all of a sudden it makes it. The problem with this mod is, although it's really cool, it kind of corners you into playing on a particular scale, right? Because that is a small door, and we could double it up, but you can't make a free wide one. Now there is a high-tech door. If I grab this thing, this is what we actually used for our server room last season. It's too high, which means it kind of looks odd in comparison to the scale of this base. So that is extremely cool, but it is too small. It might be possible to stack one on top of the other, but then it's going to look odd. And if we were to step it up and have a little staircase here, I don't think that would look particularly great either. Wow, that looks really odd. Let's wait for it to close. It just won't close. Do you know what? I respect its decision to identify it as an open door. Let's just get rid of both of those. And looking at this space here, I do actually think it would look nice if this stepped up a little bit. So we're just going to do some classic chisel and bits in here using the smaller scale one, turn it into a little step up like that, and then that's where this can come into play. I think this is going to be the trim of the room. We're going to go with these steel blocks. That's right, your eyes aren't lying to you. What you see on the floor is neutronium blocks. Okay, very expensive, but we've got more than enough of them, and the texture on it is really cool. However, as I'm placing this down, kind of aware that this room is dark, and I feel like I want to follow that. I want to get a really dark theme going on for this little area right here. Let's check that texture out though. It's kind of cool, isn't it? And we've got to make server doors. Oh, that thing takes a little bit of time to break. Good thing I've got a decent pick over here. But I'm wondering if we use that as the frame type and then we use some sort of glass. Let's just type this in and see what we've got. Oh, maybe a little bit of red in the room, although we've already got a shade of sort of dark teal going on. Let's just pick out that. Actually, no, this one right here for now. I will take more time to think about this, but I quickly want to create a door. And it's going to let me. Do you know what? I was messing around with this thing for ages a moment ago, and it wouldn't let me create a door. I can tell already the glass looks kind of naff, but back here is where we're going to have our ME drives, and so the door is going to fit on the front of it, and that is not the way to place it. And it doesn't look particularly good, but the border looks awesome, I think. So I think this neutronium block is going to feature a lot in this room. Okay, I want to build a little bit of a system to go along with all of these drives that we're going to store. We need another 4 of those, 16, excellent. And then these we're going to have one on either side. Now I want to make a flushing system where we can run all of the disks through one of these MEIO ports to put them back into disks, but potentially also into our drawers, which are located somewhere below us actually. Yes, that area over there. If you recognise it from behind, you know, it should sort of look like the area because of the building blocks that we use. But that would be a way for us to make sure those things go to the correct places, which would be pretty cool. So on either side, that is the wrong block. We are going to have 16 of these, is it? Yeah, 8 there, 16, and then 32. So 64 of these drives in total. It is going to be a crazy amount of storage. I think I know what we're going to be doing for the next part of this room, which is the ceiling. Something dark, something with like a support beam kind of vibe. So something like this, and then a grid in between it with something glowing coming down, like a colour. I think that colour is probably going to end up being blue. For now, though, I want to chuck a couple of those support beams. And yes, it's very dark in here, isn't it? Glowing glass. Looks cool, but it's too bright. We need something that's going to let light in, but not too much. We want to control the light levels here. So I think having the light coming from up above around this area is probably what's going to do the trick. So if I just put a couple more blocks up here to give an example, and then break this one, the room is still dark, but we can see what's going on now. And all of our these things are basically in place now. And these things over here are ready to be used as well. In fact, let's get a little bit technical now. Let's actually hook this thing up. I just noticed this over here, which is extremely useful. Move to output when empty, or move to output when work is done. So if we put a disk in here and it can't find places for the items to go, it'll then move it across anyway. So it's a good way of flushing the items through the system. And we're going to set it up so there'll be a button here so we can tell it to start flushing. And so we're going to need some conduit networks hooked up to these drive drawers, and then they're going to send the items around to this thing. And I think I might be going mad. Those are ME drives. Those are ME drives. They have different textures. I just noticed this because I was checking out what was behind them. That looks like the texture that we saw on the other side, right? And this one sort of looks a little bit like that one. I don't know what's going on there, but they're the same thing, but they look different based on what side of the room they're in. Let's get on the old night vision for the next bit, as we want some good visibility over here. So we're going to run into a little bit of a challenge, but most of this is going to be pretty simple. We're going to have item conduits going into each of the drawers, and over here we're going to have ME conduits, which should connect to those. They do, so that can connect to that thing down here actually. We could do that straight away. So these drives are now connected to the system, and because they chain through the blocks, it means the ones at the top are connected as well, which is pretty cool. So it's going to be the same thing again over here, but you'll see that over on these other sides we're going to run into some problems where the walls of other rooms are going to be the backs of those ME drives. Well, we're going to use Conduit Binder over here. So it's these ones, not that one. There we go, that's the 8 of them. So I can do the same thing again, right? And I can run that down below to connect to that cable. Which, is it that in line? It's not quite in line. I'll go and make that nice and tidy in a moment. And then we can do this, so we can point them all together. And then we can cover them with these, and they look like normal blocks. Amazing, I love it, so powerful, and it allows us to squeeze things into small spaces. But anyway, I was then thinking about redstone conduits. We want to control this with a little bit of redstone, and I think the way to do this is to set up this thing to have an extract and an insert mode, right? So if we click on that, extract and insert at the same time. However, can we make this one controlled by redstone? It's actually the extract that is controlled by redstone. Well, I was thinking, rather than have a redstone conduit go to each of these ME drives, that we just put it on this bit here, but that looks like it might not be possible, so maybe there's another solution to this. And while I'm thinking about that, it kind of occurred to me that I've been thinking vertically. I've been thinking that these things will connect upwards, right, through the Applied Energistics network. Well, no, all we need to do is connect one ME drive, and that will link to the next one. This one will link to that one, and so on. So we just need one connection for each group of 8 of these. Alright, so I think I've got the logic in place for how this is going to work in my mind. I'll walk you through it in a moment, but I was just putting in lots of conduits here and thinking, it's a bit over the top, isn't it, having these big networks all wrapping around the sides like this. What we should use is ender chests here. Hopefully ender chests will have enough to hold all of the disk drives, because what we've got to think is that all of these need to flush into one container at the same time, so they can be put through these machines over here, right? And I'm going to break it up so that you do them in different sections. What is it going to be? It's going to be a button here, there, there, and there. So there's going to be 4 different flushes that you can do, and I think it's going to be that and that will be one group, and this and that will be another. So what are we looking at here? That's 10 times 4 is 40, 80, 160, and I don't think an ender chest has got that much. And that's the last of the upgrades for this system. Goodness me, some time has passed by and I've just finished building one segment of this, and if it works, which I know it does, it means I can copy it around to the rest of this and we are good to go. So things are looking a bit janky here. I'm going to tidy everything up in a moment. I've also installed these buttons. Not sure if I really like the colour, but when I press this, how cool is that, right? Oh man, that's absolutely awesome. And to think, this thing is going to be filled up with discs. Now I'm not sure if it's going to move all of them at once, because of the capacity of this. Actually, no, it will. It will do both because I hooked them up so that both of these work together. Let's explain what's going on here. I was talking about using ender chests, right? So I made all of these with different colours, realised that that was a load of nonsense and started setting this thing up. So each of these conduits are the same. They're going to insert on the green channel, they're going to pull out on the brown channel, but only with a redstone signal that is cyan in colour. And I actually don't think I needed to really change the colour for each of these. Yeah, because the redstone bit here is isolated from this one, so they could actually all be cyan, and that means that changing the colours on each of these isn't going to be as painful. I can just go around and paste in all of the different conduit settings. Now another thing I need to do as well is, oh, I was copying and not pasting, is I need to add in a transfer upgrade, because otherwise the duration of the button press isn't long enough for this thing to move all of the items out. So with one of those, it moves all of them out, and that's controlled by redstone when we press the button. So it goes all the way over to these 2 chests. We insert on the brown channel. Remember, we're extracting with a redstone signal, so it can go into these 2 locations. And then it extracts from there with blue and an upgrade just to speed things along. Now the only way you can insert into this block is from up above, so we insert there, and the only way you can extract is from the side. So imagine my confusion when I couldn't get it out from the bottom, and that's why the blocks are all janky and all over the place here, because I've been figuring out where exactly they're going to go. We might as well put these conduit facades on here. And then we extract on green. So once it's gone through the process of trying to remove all the items here, it goes through the green part, through the green channel, all the way back to these drawers right here. So I think what we'll do next is craft up some more of these discs. Well, actually, I could just move the ones from our actual storage system, as the entire thing is connected to our network. So this storage here can actually be used right now. So let's go grab the discs from up above. It would probably help if I cleared my inventory first. This is the exciting bit. But before we talk about excitement, what is up with this lighting bug right here? It looks awful. I want to change it. Anyway, I'm going to slap that. All of the discs disappear. And then they get resorted, right? We should see them come through. However, I bet you there's like a... yeah, one of these discs first. Hang on a second. Aha, there we go. That needs clicking. Right, and they're coming back a little bit slower now because the items are being moved around, and it kind of looks like they're moving the items into the first discs in these drawers as well. That is so cool. That's just going to steadily fill up now, and yes, it is moving them into here because these are the only discs in operation at the moment. That might happen every time that you do this, and so it's just moved out a 64k one. In goes another one, so that's going to take a bit of time. Oh, that is so cool. I love it. It's just a shame about the lighting here at the moment, but those are slowly filling back up. That is superb. Alright, let's check the chest behind it. That's empty. What about the other one? Aha, there's all the discs. Alright then, these are the last settings to be copied. And now the system will work. The whole thing is finito, done, which is fantastic. And I've changed all of these redstone networks to cyan. because they are independent from one another, which is what I didn't think about. And now we're ready to fill this thing up with discs. But before we do that, we need to finish the aesthetics. This room is looking super janky at the moment, and I've got some ideas on what we're going to do. That, my friends, is a mighty fine looking grill, and that is going to be the start of theming this room. I'm looking for an accent colour to go in here, but as I walk in here, I feel like any sort of colour is probably going to be out of place, and I was thinking of putting it up in the roof, kind of out of sight a little bit as well. So let's start off by placing this. It's deliberately been placed at that height just so it doesn't line up with the bottom of the block, adds a little bit more depth. Actually looks really cool. And then if we put this above it, we could chisel a little bit of glowstone into it so it gives out some light. And oh, it's so subtle, you know, you wouldn't really be picking out much of the color or texture at all. So we could probably get away with any kind of block up here. But we'll do that there, and then it will go slightly higher over in this space. And I've been digging away the dirt up here. I accidentally vein mined all of this stuff as well, so I had to spend some time putting it all back together, which is a bit of a pain. But I ran into a couple of things. One of them is our Fool's controller, which we're going to put on display here, and the other thing is the Enderchest. And we're probably going to leave this bit as is, even though it's part of the other builds. I did have the Tyrium blocks on me a moment ago. That ain't so bad, although I don't know what else is going to go in this bit over here. We might need more space, but we could kind of bring that texture into here. You can also open the ender chest when you've got a block above it, which is really cool. And we also need some painted conduits, because down here, that looks a little bit odd, doesn't it? So I've painted some of these up, we'll put them in there, and the connected textures still work. I've got to say, Ender.io, what an amazing mod. We're pretty much using it all the time. That's got a nice atmosphere to it, you know. I think it's the right amount of light for the ceiling, but still needs to be more light down the bottom here. Not sure where that's going to come from, but I ended up going with the tin block. It's got a similar sort of tint to these colours right here. I felt that blue was just sticking out way too much, and so with a little bit of glowstone on top of half of it, it emits some light. So I've been prepping the corner here to have these blocks behind it, and then I was thinking we could find some sort of liquid to drop down into here, but it doesn't really show up, this one, at least the animation. That's what I was hoping to bring out there, and then it kind of looks like this is a glass pane in front of it, but that didn't really do that for me. And also, but behind there, it's going to be a little bit inconsistent based on the other builds. So I thought, well, let's just put a block back here, and classic block to work with is this one, of course, because of the fancy colours and the animation going on there. And that's pretty cool. It actually fits into that space rather well. However, twice over, not so sure about. So I think what we're going to do is have it on the one side that's a little less obvious and a little less visible. And then on the other side, we are going to go with the block that is on the floor. And I've been doing some chiseling and bits with a different texture to make these corner bits up. So let's go like this, upwards. And that looks really cool, actually. I think the colour now looks slightly out of place. Maybe we should rip that out entirely and do this. And yeah, that's actually really cool. I'm going to go with that one. We are close to being done here. This room is looking mighty fine. We've got to craft up a load of drives. We've got to finish doing the molasses doors. I hope you haven't forgotten about that. But over here we need our diagnostics area. So we've got a dimensional transceiver back there. Apparently I can't count. I thought we needed 4. We've got 8 ME drives over here. That's going into this energy acceptor, which means that we can attach that there. Then we can go grab a disc and we can see what exactly is on it. So I can chuck it into here. This bit, of course, isn't automated. But then I open that and I see all the items that are stored. Very cool, right? There's also a couple of ME drives in here. That's perfect because we need a couple more. They only slide upwards. I kind of pictured us having some sliding up and some sliding down, right? So you click on it, it goes up, and it, well, actually, there's almost space up there. Let's go grab a door because it might not look too bad. I've got a feeling it's going to go clip with the top though. Let's search by the mod, Malices. We've got a couple of doors. Where's the custom one? That's probably the best one to test. Right, and if we slap this thing here, I think it probably needs a block under it to begin with. And it facing the wrong way. Of course it is. Alright, like that. So that's going to be our cover. And it pops off. And it pops off. What if we could get away with a chiseled block underneath it? So a single bit and then the line going across like that. Is that also on this side? That's the next block along, but we won't worry about that for now. Right, I've got to face that way and place the door on that little ledge. I don't think this is going to work. Yeah, it won't let me place it on there. Oh well, I think we're going to skip on the doors then. We're not going to implement them this time. So, my time for recording this episode has come to a close, and all I was going to do was mass craft a whole bunch of discs to put in this room and make it look super fancy. And I know what you want me to do. You want me to press the button. Apparently that turns off the light over there temporarily. And now all of the disk drives are being sorted over here. It's so cool. I love the system. But we'll leave that to do its thing. Let's go check how many singularities that I've got, because in the time of making this episode we have gotten one more copper singularity, which is just not good enough, is it? And I think it's a matter of time now. I've exhausted all of my options, it feels like. If those quarries would stop losing their filters, we could produce things a little bit faster. But it's just about this area now creating the stuff for us. Oh yeah, there's also these things over here. I had a load of ores backing into the system, and so I had to temporarily create some filters and move them back out again, and that shouldn't be here. And what we'll do is we'll break that and then we'll vein mine that away, and all is good. And that's how we're going to end the episode. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like. As always, thank you for your support, and hopefully we'll be making some infinity tools in the next episode, but it's looking kind of unlikely, right? I don't know. Anyway, thank you as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.